Live.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you may be. This is Sandeep Punithan, Editor-in-Chief of Chakra News, coming to you live here from New Delhi. And I'm joined by two very special guests, Lieutenant General P.R. Shankar, former Director General, Artillery, and of course, my good friend Advaita Kala, who needs no introduction really. She's a media celebrity, she's a scriptwriter, and of course, a very astute political commentator. Uh, General Shankar, Advaita, welcome to our joint discussion here today. It's a very interesting concept that we've tried. We've merged three of our YouTube channels, and all of you out there, all of you fans of Gunners Short, Advaita Kala's channel, and of course, Chakra News can watch us live. And here we're here to talk about Prime Minister Modi's historic visit to China. So, without waiting, General Shankar, I want to throw the first question to you. Has Donald Trump brought Prime Minister Modi closer to Xi Jinping?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. But before that, thanks a lot for this introduction. I'm looking forward to this great, tie-up with you and of course Advaita. And I'm sure that every Saturday we're going to come live to talk very interesting topics, topically, and get some sense into the disorderly world we are living in. Having said that, the question: has Trump done this? Look, at this point of time, Trump has set off a snooker ball effect, right?
Right,
He's just played. Now, those one doesn't know where these balls are going. There are a lot of rebounds going on and everything. And one part of this rebound is he's virtually driven India to get closer to China. But having said that, I'd like to put a word of caution to everyone. You know,
right.
USA is not our enemy as
No,
we keep start dealing with China, right? At the same time, we have to understand China is not at our friend as we have problems with USA. Both the things we need to keep that balance in mind when we deal. And the trajectory with USA will continue the way it is. The trajectory with China is a new trajectory which we are starting, which is actually a continuum of the old trajectory,
right, right,
right? And what I want to put in focus here is that look, uh, this process of normalization with China started sometime back in Kazan.
a
So
year
there is a
ago.
continuum there. Yeah, a year ago, right? There's of course this Trump rebound, and there's a felt necessity between India and China to get to each other because their economy is suffering and all that.
Right,
And there are other factors also. So it's not exactly a rebound, right? And there's an effect of Sindoor and uh, many other issues. So
right.
we'll get to that. This is
Absolutely.
what I feel. Yeah,
No, no, no. Very good, opening comments, John Shankar. And, I want to ask Advaita this because, Advaita, you create characters for your movies. Of course, Bob Biswas, that ultimate character for Kahani. Always remember, I think he's as great as, if not greater than Gabbar Singh. So that said, this whole thing seems to be about personalities. And, Prime Minister Modi brought in a certain personalization of foreign policy. You see his outreaches to President Donald Trump, to Xi Jinping, to Vladimir Putin, of course. They were very warm. There's a certain chemistry that they all enjoyed. And you can see it, they're very comfortable with each other. But now in 2025, 11 years later, he shares that chemistry only with President Vladimir Putin. With Donald Trump, we don't know what happened. It seems to be, some kind of a personal grudge fight. There's an ego battle here. One of Trump's advisors seems to suggest that recently, where he said this, why doesn't he take our call? Something like that. To suggest that it's become an ego battle. It's become a clash of personalities. The same thing with President Xi Jinping. You had that warmth on display first in the Sabarmati riverfront, then in Mahabalipuram, where he actually put his personal credibility on the line, Prime Minister Modi. And Galwan happened 20, 5 years back. Do you see this as one of the pitfalls of personalizing foreign policy, the way the Prime Minister engages? It's a great thing. It's good for optics. But there is a flip side to it when you're dealing with countries like the United States, as it is under President Trump, China, which has the long-term view, where it views India as a threat to its dominance of Asia and then later the world. You want to comment on that, Advaita?
Sure. And I just want to say, start by saying I'm very excited about this collaboration. I think it's so interesting. It's 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, but we'll get through it. We're with the general here.
That Advaita did say that it was my Mallu genes that were responsible for waking her up so early in the morning to do. She normally brunch. She does the Sunday brunch, which is an enormously popular show. I have so many of my friends, colleagues who watch it. Of course, I watch it as well. But over to you, Advaita.
Right. So I think, first of all, let me say that Prime Minister Modi now, today, as we stand, is the longest serving democratically elected leader in the world.
Right.
Comes with a huge amount of, experience, with a lot of impetus, as well as support from his people. So that's where we're at in terms of who he is on the global stage. The Prime Minister inherited a certain world chemistry, if you will, wherein India had a place in the world, and that place was always in that space of rising, still has potential, could be, should be. And that was what the Prime Minister inherited as a country which could be great, which
Right.
should be great. We want you to be great, but you're just not getting there. And that's what the Prime Minister inherited. And in the last 10, 11 years, what he's worked on is really moving that trajectory to a point wherein India has grown rapidly to become one of the most powerful economies in the world, where, we are being taken seriously on the global stage. We have a voice, we have an opinion that is often sought rather. So, he has moved India's trajectory a great deal. Now, is that going to make people uncomfortable because we are a post-colonial society? We have been, to a large extent, been dependent on larger allies to help us through and to guide our growth trajectory, so to speak. And the Prime Minister, from day one, if he has reached out in a positive way to other people, he's also said Atmanirbharta. We have to
Right.
be self-sufficient, because he recognized the pitfalls of seeking this kind of strategic autonomy as well as presence on the global stage, and matching that with the aspirations of 150 billion people, which means that, we have to have economic development. So I think the
Right.
Prime Minister has been very strategic and open about his intentions, about India, taking India, helping her realize her potential. At the same time, recognize that regional stability is essential to achieve that. And for that reason, he reached out to Pakistan. We know what happened there. He reached out to China. We know what happened there. People are saying this is an ego issue with Trump. Not for the Prime Minister. This is somebody who reached out to Pakistan, who,
Right.
despite being a larger country, flew down himself to Pakistan and
Right.
invited them for his swearing in. Same thing with Xi. Went, what was it, like 70 plus meetings initially? The most frequently met leader in the world was President Xi. So
Right.
Prime Minister is not the type to put his ego in front of the country's interests. And he's shown that many, many times. Trump is erratic. Trump could be fine with us in 2 months. He could be even more upset with us in 2 months. We just don't know what rocks his boat.
Right. We
And
don't
by
know
the way, groceries are getting expensive in the US. So I think Trump is also heading towards some serious domestic pressure. So this, the world
Yeah.
bully thing can go on for
Right.
some time, but at some point his people are going to say, step back.
Right, absolutely. No, you're spot on, Advaita. I was just watching Zaka Jacobs' show on Network 18, and he was speaking to an U.S. economist, Martin Wolf. And Wolf said, listen, this is not a U.S. plan, right, to alienate India. We have serious issues back home. States are not talking to each other. The military is marching on the streets of Washington. It's that bad, So don't look at this as some great American plan to, isolate India or anything like that. It is Trump. And I think that is what a lot of the US strategic commentators coming out to say, listen, it's a one-off. It is not US policy to do this. And as we discussed last Saturday with General Shankar, I mean, this is a policy that was supposed to be the most significant strategic partnership of the 21st century. That's what the Americans call it. And today, we're 25 years down the line, we're looking at a partnership that's neither strategic nor global. do we even have a partnership is what a lot of people are asking. But General Shankar, now the fact is, a few hours from now, Prime Minister Modi is going to be in China with President Xi Jinping. How is this meeting going to be different from previous meetings? I was at the India Today studios yesterday. We were discussing the mood of the nation uh, poll, which polls something like 50,000 people across the country. More than three-fourths of the polled respondents were deeply suspicious of China's intent. They said, we can't trust China. When there is such a large groundswell of distrust with China, the fact is they are a neighbor, they are a reality in our neighborhood. How will the Prime Minister's outreach to Xi Jinping be different this time around from previous meetings?
Like the first thing which you said, I want to elaborate. As much as there is mistrust from India towards China, even the Chinese mistrust us equally. So it
Right.
is mutual. This mistrust is mutual. And, contrary to what many people think, the border still remains the most significant part of this
Right.
relationship or the problems. It's not only on our side, even on the Chinese side. You read the Mandarin news, you come to know that they are not willing to give up 1 inch of territory or their national sovereignty as far as the border is concerned. Right? So the fundamental thing hasn't changed. Okay. Then the second thing which doesn't change is that China's quest for Asian domination and a Sino-centric world order. They see this as an opportunity to move with India so that they can, reverse the whole story and their Sino-centric world order can be established. We view it a little differently, right? We are saying, look, we have a problem with USA. We need to mend our fences with China and get ahead. It is our economy, right?
Right.
And like what Advaita was saying, Prime Minister has been consistent in one thing that push up India's overall rating in the global arena. That has been very consistent. It doesn't matter what it takes. It's that. So there is a clear understanding between the both of us that what we're going to get out of this is only going to be incremental. Certain
Right.
amount of fundamental tactical adjustments is what we can do. Look, let me put it something else in context. Already, our prime minister has given a major indication by going to Japan before he goes to
Yes.
China.
I was going to come to
Okay,
that.
and in where what is he said in Japan? He said, "Look, India and Japan can script the Asian century together." So scripting the Asian century together with India and Japan is a thing to China. Look, Asian century is not about China. It is about India and Japan. There's a very significant statement if you can read beyond the obvious, and this won't be missed in, China. And the fact that there is a 10-year investment plan from Japan to India, and there's already a lot of space and defense cooperation enhanced, which has been announced, right? Plus, there is our prime minister has gone and met the governors of all prefectures. Prefectures in China are the states.
Right.
He's met the business leaders, and the joint statement and all are still coming out. So there is a huge positivity. It has
Right.
already given a signal to China that look, you're not the only player in the show in Asia. There are others.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so he's going there on the thing that look, I have a base, and my base is pretty solid. And just
Right.
club it with two facts more. One, last month or earlier this month, the president of Philippines had come to India.
Yes.
And after then, we've done a couple of exercises in the South China Sea, which is unprecedented. Three of our
Right.
warships have done a joint patrol with Philippines.
Right.
And then, a little before that, Prime Minister Modi had gone to Brazil, did a state visit there after the BRICS meet. Okay, and there is a very clear case, which there's a response from Brazil also, of a partnership, enhanced partnership with Brazil, considering the fact both of us have gone into the 50% tariff,
Yeah. Right.
strata. Thing.
We're partners in
Yeah,
the Trump tariffs regime. Yeah.
yeah. And then, the next thing is we are meeting China at a time when China is not great internally. Their
Right.
military is getting purged left, right, and center. Their economy is stagnant. I mean, just think
Right.
it is stagnant. People are talking of deflation in the Chinese economy. And
Right.
India's economy is running on at 7.8%. The
Right.
so-called dead economy, as per Trump, has come alive and it is
Yes.
running at 7.8%. There's a huge thing. And and China has its own internal political issues, right?
Right.
And their economy is, of course, deflation, like I said. So we are meeting today China at a better level at on one to one. On the table is pretty even. Like
Yes.
unlike say 2-3 years back. And today it's also the felt need of China to
Mm.
normalize its relations with India
Right.
as before we wanted to normalize. No, it is they also want to normalize,
Yes. Yes.
right? So I think it's a good thing that we can deal with them on positive things. And in the long run, let's face it, you have a border with them, 3,000 plus kilometers. At some point of time, you have to normalize it.
Right.
If you can
Absolutely.
start it today, why not? I mean,
Right, right,
it's to our
absolutely. Very
benefit.
interesting point there, Rajan Shankar. The fact is that Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping are meeting halfway. So it is in both people's interests, both countries' interests, certainly for this meeting. That's what makes this really important. It is shared interests, shared, fears, and of course, we have a mutual suspicion of each other. But that will have to remain there because I think post 2020, the understanding of China has the reassessment in at least in South Bloc has been tremendous. I mean, it was always there, but I think the kind of infrastructure and security buildup that we've seen post 2020 is almost historic. But Advaita, I want to take you on that point that you made earlier on about the fact that Trump would actually come around sooner or later. Maybe a month from now, 2 months from now, but the damage will already have been done. Uh, give us an understanding of Trump 2.0. In his second term, he seems to have gone completely berserk. He is not even the thing about Trump in first, thing that he was completely unpredictable. But in the second term, he seems to have gone, completely ballistic. And in fact, I was just reading this piece by Ashley Tellis in Foreign Affairs, this edition where he wrote that thing of how the US is today. And he says that, he makes this prediction at the end of this piece. I'm not a huge fan of Ashley Tellis because he's a guy who wants India to be a vassal of the United States. But he made this very interesting prediction here. He says that the transactional habits may come to dominate the relationship. And, Trump's approach to India in his second term signals something like this happening. So there was all these indications which we seem to have missed in the second Trump term. But, give us a sense of Trump and his legacy in his second term. He is approaching, this is possible, his last term, in fact. There's no third term possibly, though he believes otherwise. But, give us a sense of the Trumpian state of affairs, because you have so many friends across the world. You keep talking to people all the time.
Right. And the thing is that Trump's, I think, policy is the scorched earth policy, right? That's
Absolutely. The
that's what
scorched earth.
he's
That's a military term, incidentally. The
yeah,
scorched earth
that's
policy.
what he's doing right now. See, because he's a
He,
super
he's sponsoring
ambitious.
America.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes. Starting with his own country. And the thing is, constitutionally, he can't stand for a third term. He's going to
Right.
try.
Right.
He got a taste of power and then felt he believes was tricked into losing the second time round, and now this is it for him. The next 3.5 years is it. And the way American politics goes, in the next year you're going to have the next guys standing up and saying we're your next president. So the attention,
Right.
you'll see, will start shifting. And Trump is a
Midterm.
creation of the attention economy, right?
Right.
Yeah, he's a creation of the attention economy. He was one of the first celebs to be on a reality show. That's how he built his persona. That's how he connected with the masses. So he is a creation of that economy. So he will continue to do things around the world which will keep him at the center of attention, and that's really what he primarily cares about. He's not
Right.
looking at this from any kind of strategic point of view. He's not really listening to well-meaning advice, even from his team. He
Right.
just sees everything about in the context or in the lens of him, and now because it's his second term, his legacy. So that's really where he's headed. I suspect that the Americans will have to walk back a lot of these things that Trump is doing in this current term. And that's not going to be very pleasant for them. India, on her part, has always, especially under Prime Minister Modi, been a votary of the multipolar world. So
Yeah.
whether it's, America wanting to be the only global superpower, or China wanting to be the only global superpower that is going to replace America, India's approach to both these large countries has been the same, that we are a votary of a multipolar world. We have emerged from colonial society. We're an emerging colonial society. We've had a terrible experience with colonialism and foreign invasion and being subjected. And we are really not going to, vote for anything that sees power concentrated in one hand. And the
Right.
way Trump has treated the tariffs as a new form of war, really. He's not
Yes.
dropping bombs like like other presidents, but he's definitely using it in the same way. So this has made it even clearer for us that for the world to be at peace and to have some sense of balance, power cannot be tilted in one way or the other. And I think India is playing a very smart role by
Yeah.
maintaining its strategic autonomy. And tomorrow, if Trump wants to be friendly with India, I think we'll be open to that as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a great observation there. And of course, the fact that Trump is a creation of the attention economy, and attention is what he craves the most.
Yes.
And the other thing about this attention, I don't know if it's a function of the attention economy, is that you know in 2025 it looks like we are in the middle of a T20 match. Uh, Gone are the days when geopolitics was conducted like a test match. You had the 5-day thing spread over a week, and leisurely breaks and all of that. Now it's like every single day there's something happening every single day. And the next 4 months, I must inform you, is that you've already seen President Xi Jinping is going to be meeting Prime Minister Modi in Beijing. The Russians have just announced that President Putin is going to visit Delhi in December. There's the possibility of a Donald Trump visit to New Delhi for the Quad summit. We don't know if that's still on the agenda. It is certainly on the agenda, but the Americans have not confirmed it. But who knows, that rapprochement could actually come in that Quad summit if they actually attach the same relevance to the Quad as Trump did in his first term, incidentally, 2017. But now the new Quad we are talking of is a very different kind of a Quad. We discussed it last Saturday with General Ravi Shankar and Colonel Avasti, my colleague. We were talking about how this new Quad is basically, it is New Delhi, Moscow, Beijing, and of course Washington DC. They are at they're not all on the same page for everything, especially Trump and India, but there is a certain element of convergence between 2 or 3 of us, and I think that's what we're going to see play out in the next 3 or 4 months. But then Shankar, I'm going to ask you this thing. But last Saturday when you said that we were discussing Sergio Gore's appointment as Trump's envoy to New Delhi. I'm calling him envoy because whatever Trump does seems to suggest that it is the act of an empire, the American empire. And you said, look at Central Asia. And that's what I did. I just went and started researching. And very interesting that there's a pattern that's emerging, right? And I just want to read out the dates, 3 dates in the last exactly 1 month. July 27th, like you mentioned, the Pak Army Chief, Field Marshal Munir, hosts the Central Asian conference of all the military chiefs in Islamabad, the first of its kind. And his friend General Kurila is, of course, there, the CENTCOM commander, then CENTCOM commander. 9th of August, you have Trump announcing the Armenia-Azerbaijan peace deal in the White House. And he talks about the Trump Road for International Peace and Prosperity, the TRIPP. And then on the 23rd of August, you have the appointment of Sergio Gort, who is an ethnic Russian born in Uzbekistan. He clearly speaks the language, which all the Central Asian republics speak. He's not only an appointed envoy to New Delhi, but also to, very interestingly, for the first time, a US ambassador in India is going to be the envoy to Central Asia. And that led me to think that what possibly Trump wants as his legacy, since Advaita was talking about legacy, is this Trump Road for International Peace and Prosperity, which is the central corridor going from Turkey through Azerbaijan and then to Armenia, because you just cross the Caspian Sea and you're in the middle of the Stans, one of the richest sources of oil, gas, minerals, rare earths, and all of that. It's just 4,000 kilometers long. And this is something that Trump could actually achieve in that short time that he has, 3.5 years. Do you think he's making a play for Central Asia? Because, bypassing Russia, he's bypassing China, he's bypassing Iran. This is a straight route to Central Asia. You think this is the plan now?
I have no doubt about it. His focus is Central Asia, right? Look, where is American influence strongest today in the globe? It is in the West Asia, from the Mediterranean right up to India's border. They already got it. They've got Pakistan also in their pocket, barring Iran.
They've got yes.
Iran has hardly influence in this area anymore. And what has happened with Houthis yesterday? If those reports are right, the Bab al Mandab is now free. Okay, the report is that Israelis have bombed out the complete leadership of the Houthis. Yes. In which case Houthis are also eliminated, and the last vestiges of whatever problems are there are gone. In
the
this area,
of influence has been cracked.
Is
finally.
Out.
Hezbollah,
and then
Houthis, all of that, 3 H's.
And here in this area, you don't find any Russian influence nor Chinese influence. China has its economic thing, but strategically zero. It's only logical thereafter, and USA has always had a hold on Afghanistan. They've been funding the Taliban government, which virtually. So there is a natural border now with into or reach into Central Asian Republic, and with Pakistan also playing ball, it's there. Now, what does Central Asian Republic gives you? It gives you access into Russia very clearly. With whatever is happening in Ukraine, if it draws down to a close also, complete underbelly of Russia has been, is in focus. Then the complete eastern desolate area of Xinjiang, China, which is the weakest part of China, mind you, is now under, you can start influencing it. Then the pipelines between Russia and China and the Central Asian republics and China also come under your influence.
Right.
Not only that, East Europe comes into the influence. Please understand, once you get Central Asia, East Europe across the Caucasus comes into, Romania and all those areas come into thing. So the Central Asia ploy is it's not Trump's attention disorder kind of a thing.
Right.
It is absolutely strategic, and someone is thinking.
Yes.
And that is why you see that also the fact that he's trying to make good with Russia and China simultaneously.
Right.
It doesn't matter where he succeeds. He wants to succeed with one. That is why this outreach to Putin with, in Alaska, plus spurning India, giving a signal to China that India doesn't count, China counts. Both, they're playing this game. One has to understand this. We should be clear, let Trump and Russia keep playing their games. We should be clear that we shouldn't get sucked up into this game.
Right.
We should say sucked up into this game. Right? We shouldn't get sucked up into this game. And my way of looking at this, to some extent, China understands this game.
Right.
In fact, Russia also understands this game.
Right.
But like you earlier said, whether you like it or not, whether people like it or not, so far the strategic construct was that, the 3 big players in the world are Russia, China, and USA. The 4th big player has arrived. whether people like it or not, or acknowledge it or not, we are there.
Right.
You can't deny an economy, $4 trillion economy, which is going at 7.8%, the
Right.
biggest population, and you're able to go to the moon and the Mars, and you say,
Yes.
no, you're not a power. You count. All
Yes.
what Trump is doing, you count, and count big time. And as we go ahead, this weight of ours will continue to grow up. And we carry a lot of trust with us. We have this great soft power called trust. So we got to
Right.
count. So in this, we shouldn't get sucked up in Trump's game.
Right.
We should
Absolutely.
play the game the way we want it, to the benefit of our people. We shouldn't lose sight of the fact that a lot of people in India are still poor, and
Yes.
India can be as strong as the weakest link in India, that is the poorest man in India. We need to focus on the issues internally, right?
Right.
Or poverty, or growth, or infrastructure and things like that. That will automatically ensure that we go up. And let me also tell you, Sindoor has taught another important aspect of India to the whole world. That is the fact that Indian armed forces are someone you cannot trifle with,
Right.
right? And this is a realization with USA, Russia, and China. People, you forget about, you look beyond the curtain, you look beyond the facade. China is worried. Why is China come to you to mend fences? They've used all their best equipment through Pakistan and it has failed. Forget the info war and all that. Now they are worried. The same equipment will be deployed on the Tibet border. Can
Ladakh
they get
as
into
well.
a Ladakh? Not Ladakh, even Arunachal. The same equipment will be
Yes,
there.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Now with that equipment, can they fight India? Really? I mean, I'd be surprised if any Chinese general will say, let's go and attack India. He'll say, yeah, let's start mending fences with them.
That's an interesting
They've
point.
seen,
Yeah, General Shankar. I never thought of that actually. The fact that the failure of Chinese equipment in Pakistan to prevail over India would have spooked
yeah, yeah.
the Chinese
Not only
military as
that,
well.
not only that. You see, in terms of modern war, you also eliminated some element of American influence in Pakistan. Now the news is coming out. Noor Khan base had some private military contractors, yeah, wo, a lot of American origin, and that's another reason why America. Suddenly, America also finds itself with a partner, strategic
Right.
partner. We are still there. That partnership is not broken, officially
Yes.
at least. With a
Right.
strategic partner who has more heft than they previously thought.
Yeah, that's the thing where I've been calling it from the 10th of May, General Shankar. I've been calling Sindoor the out of syllabus question that nobody expected. Everyone thought we would carry out one strike and then, the Pakis would carry a swift retort and that would be the end of it. But we actually escalated. And I think that is what worried everyone. And, like you've correctly pointed out, what happened on the 10th of May, the shattering of Pakistan's air defense cover, the fact that their nuclear vectors were affected, and paralyzed rather, that would have really worried them, and that's why they ran to the United States and the phone started ringing. But the one expression that came out in your talk, General Shankar, is the game. You said India must not be sucked into this game,
Sucked into this game.
and the great game is where this is the area where the great game was played in the 19th century and going all the way up to the 20th. And I believe that the transfer of Gilgit-Baltistan from Kashmir. I'm calling it the transfer because this was a very, very elaborate scheme by the departing British to transfer Gilgit-Baltistan to Pakistan, thereby ensuring that India did not have direct access to Central Asia. This has always been the British plan to, firewall India from the Russian Empire so that India and the Russian Empire could never, touch borders. They built that Wakhan corridor, which was that Afghanistan was the buffer state on the western axis, and Tibet would be the buffer on the northern axis, right? But those buffers have collapsed. The ones on the western flank have not. Pakistan remains there. So that is actually, those were the final acts of the Great Game. But now you're looking at a new Great Game where the British, of course, have declined. They're a marginal power now. The United States is the new Britain of the 20th and 21st century. And now they have entered the arena and they've started playing this new great game, as you just outlined, into Central Asia, displacing the Russians and the Chinese. Russians actually, this is one of the impacts of the Ukrainian war, General Shankar. The fact is that they got stuck into the war. It's entering its fourth year. They've taken their eye off so many other places, like the Stans, for instance. That was called the near abroad, the Russian near abroad, which is a sphere of influence. Now they don't seem to be as focused on that. And that explains how Trump seems to be drawing this line under the Russian nose, above the Iranian head, and into the Chinese belly, the Central Asian thing. I'm sure this is something that you're going to see a lot more of, and I think that the great thing about discussions with people as knowledgeable like you and Advaita is the fact that we actually get a fair idea of the trajectory of events. We're not only talking about what's happened, what had happened, but possibly what might unfold in the next couple of months. I mean, that's the thing of, this is like a intelligence discussion in a sense, that you're looking into the future, into the next 4, 6, 8 months. But, Advaita, talking about the future, Trump's biggest test, if he can go until November without being overturned or overthrown or whatever happens in the United States, people are saying it's the new civil war that's playing out in the United States, the like you saw in the 19th century. But you have the midterms in November, and that's a big, big test for Trump. And we're going to see the new contenders, the new Democrats who are going to be the challengers to 2029, who will stake their claim for the White House in the 2029 elections. Gavin Newsom, for instance, seems to be one very, very promising candidate from the Democrats. I mean, he's, if you see the way he's moving around, he looks very presidential in his conversations and his speeches and his video posts and all that. But give us a sense of where we are with the United States in the next couple of months, with the domestic politics of the US, and who are the possible contenders from the Democrats and from the Republicans. And and the other big question, Advaita, is that the silence of the Indian diaspora in the United States. There's not been one statement either for or for against. It's been, like that A.K. Hangal dialogue from Sholay. Itna sannata kyun hai bhai? What's your take on this? Firstly, I mean, the contenders, more interestingly, the silence of the Indian diaspora in the United States.
There's a reason why we're called the most well-adjusted immigrant community, because most well-behaved.
That's a
Because
nice
nobody,
one.
yes, nobody is saying anything. Nobody will say anything, and that's fine. If one thing India has realized now in its current position, and I'm so glad the general said that we're the fourth member of the party, so to speak, because that is true. And we don't need any kind of voices from anywhere that need to come in support of us. I think Gavin Newsom is, of course, very handsome. That's what I think you were trying to say, Sandeep, but you can't quite say it. But I, as a woman, can say it. He's handsome. You said he's very presidential.
In a very conventional American vast way, So
Oh,
that way he is. Yeah.
It's okay. You're just deflecting. He is very handsome. He's the governor of California. He's also one of the first people, when there was this huge backlash in the Democratic Party that we lost this particular election because of all the wokeism and all the, kind of getting into the pronouns and not getting onto the facts on the ground. And that kind of backlash came in. Newsom was smart. Newsom kind of acknowledged it, although he comes from the uber liberal state of California. And he even started a podcast, and he started inviting people to his podcast who were anti-Democrats. So from what you would say, the American right. And people were like, why is he doing that? And his whole point was, I want to hear from all sides. So Newsom has been making the right moves. The California fires kind of put him on the back foot because they were so devastating, and he was not able to tackle them in quite the way he wanted to. But on the other hand, when that happened and Trump started attacking him directly, it also raised his profile. because then it became a Newsom versus Trump kind of battle of perception war that went on. So Newsom is definitely, somebody who's positioning himself very assertively as a possible candidate. He was always in the game. He's now, I think, stepping out into the open. I think, remember, Kamala Harris was also from California,
Yes.
so that may have inhibited him to a certain extent the last time round. But now that's out of the picture, so he's far more open about it. There
Right.
was an interesting headline this time in the US. JD Vance was quoted as saying that Trump is in terrific health, but should something tragic happen, I'm ready to lead, which I felt for a vice president. Of course, we know why a vice president is there if something tragic happens, like
Yes.
JFK and Johnson. The vice president steps up and leads. We know why he's there. But the fact that he had to say it, to articulate it, makes it very interesting, which makes one wonder, is there some sort of churn that is going on within
Yes.
the Republicans? Remember, Vance was a critic of Trump before
Yes.
he changed over and then
They
became
all were. Marco Rubio was a huge critic of Trump, and now they've all
exactly.
fallen in line. But that's the
Yes.
U.S. system.
And Trump used to call Marco Rubio little Marco because he's not that tall. So I mean, there were like personal attacks and things of that
Yeah.
nature, but that's American politics. And then they're all working together. So that's the way they do things. So I think there is a bit of a churn. Part of it is we will see some signs of it. For the most part, I think they're just going to keep the ship sailing. What's really going to hit him hard is, like I
Right.
said, groceries already getting expensive. Like I have friends saying that, oh, I went to the grocery store and this is how much I paid, as
Right.
opposed to what I was paying a month ago. So it's already happening. And the Americans
Right.
are very price sensitive. Their gas, their groceries, these are things that when it hits them, they really talk about it and they really come out. I mean, it's in that sense truly a middle class democracy,
Oh, really?
because that,
I thought we were
yeah,
the only price-sensitive people on planet
no,
Earth.
there is. I mean, yes, I mean, depends on the part of the US you are in, but
Yeah.
everyone feels it. Everyone feels the pinch, and they will talk about it, and it will sour the mood. So I think Trump knows that, because remember, one of his key planks when he was standing for president this time around was eggs. The cost of eggs. That was a
Right.
huge talking point for Trump, and
Right.
that was something that actually made a difference in the election. So they
Yeah.
are price sensitive. And we'll just have to see. If he doesn't back down from this game he's playing, his own people are going to have to suffer. And then those candidates that have his support in the midterms are going to suffer. So
Right.
there,
Absolutely. So it looks like it already is Newsom versus nuisance. I'm sorry, Trump. Newsom versus Trump, and and this is a battle that will play out in the next couple of months. But General Shankar, uh, coming back to China, which is what we're going to see in the next couple of hours from now, when Prime Minister Modi lands in Beijing. We had this studio discussion yesterday in India Today. We were talking about, someone brought out the point of, Hindi Chini bye bye was the big thing in the 1960s. What's it going to be now? So I said, now it's just going to be Hindi Chini bye bye, BUY, BUY, right? There is
Mhm.
a huge economic angle to our relationship. And the fact is that there is that big elephant in the room, which is that $100 billion surplus that China enjoys over us. I mean, we are literally buying $100 billion worth of stuff from China, and they're buying what, $19 billion worth of stuff from us. You think this is going to be this has always been the elephant or the dragon in the room when it comes to the India-China relationship? What can we really do now to offset this? Will Prime Minister Modi ask for greater access for the Chinese market? I mean, how can that deal sweetener come about? It's always been on every prime minister's agenda, but the Chinese they've built that great wall of China around the Chinese markets, and they're very hard to penetrate in that sense. But give us a sense of where we are with that big trade deal with China.
Okay. Look, there is a view in China, which I read yesterday in one of their hardcore Mandarin media. Look, what does China want from India?
Hmm.
China wants access to Indian market so that it can dump its goods. This is the word they use. So that
Right.
China can dump its goods and revive its economy. what does India want from China as per him? And it's right also. India wants, investment into from wherever,
Yeah.
so that factories are built and technology is transferred here and all that. Now we can't allow China to get into our markets and flood and dump. In
Yeah.
which case, our whole story will wipe out. They can't invest in transfer technologies and build factories here because the moment they do that, it is at their cost.
Right.
You see, there's a very clear understanding there, and we also need to understand our rise is at their expense. It is
Right.
established.
Right.
So they are not prepared to do that. So how do you square this off? That
Yeah.
is the thing. I don't think it's going to get squared off so easily, right? They're going to be little it like what happened after Kazan meet. People went back by a few kilometers and everything else, and after that, it has not gone anywhere. You disengage, but nothing more than disengagement has happened,
Right.
right?
Right.
Along the border. What are you said now? That you'll start the border negotiation and you'll have a committee. We'll look at early harvest outcomes and all that. So by doing this, you put the border in the centerpiece. So now the border is back in the bargain. Now to offset that, you said, okay, we'll allow Mansarovar Yatra, which has started,
Yeah.
plus
Yeah.
flights, some visas. I think we'll not go beyond that for a long time to come.
Oh,
Right?
really?
Neither will
Oh,
they invest here. I don't think they'll either will they invest here or will we allow our markets to be opened for Chinese goods.
that's
It's
a
actually
different
against each other.
standoff. You're talking of a different kind of a standoff then. From a military standoff, you're at an economic standoff.
Yeah. Now, if this has to be broken, Xi Jinping and Mr. Modi have to put a lot of political stakes on the table,
Right.
right, to overturn any of this. Okay, now let me look at it from a different point of view. China can increase imports from India. It's not
Hmm.
a problem, but it has been deliberately not doing so because fundamentally, China also needs to import a lot to export.
Yes. Raw materials and all that to
Raw,
create
a
finished
lot of
goods.
things. Yeah. So it needs this thing. And if China has to realize any of its dreams, the fact is very clear. Unless it gives something to India, it will not get anything back. The
Right.
question is, what can India give to China? You find that you very little you can give to China. You have to take because the table is already tilted.
Yes.
The playing field is already heavily tilted against
Right.
us.
Right.
Okay, so I don't see too many things happening, but maybe a basic understanding will come in with between the two countries. Maybe things are a little more. I mean, let me take it to another level. Will the understanding between India and China prevent China from helping Pakistan, which is fundamental to our relationship?
I don't think that's
No way. After all,
yeah.
Wang Yi, when he came here last month, after touching down in India, next stop was Afghanistan and Pakistan to sort out their
Yeah.
issues. So that issues will not go. The fundamental problems between, okay, what are the fundamental problems between India and China today? The border, of course, is the problem. There's no
Yes.
doubt about it. Okay, Pakistan is the problem. There's no doubt about it. Dalai Lama is the problem. There's no doubt about it. Or the reincarnation of Dalai Lama and the Tibet question, which is going to come up. There's no doubt about it. For the next 10 years, we're going to be talking of it. Okay, the new dam in Brahmaputra is a problem.
Yes. Of
Their
course.
their entry into Doklam and expanding that Doklam enclave is their form is a problem. There are no solutions to this. You think
Right.
any talk between Modi and Xi Jinping will give any solutions to these issues? And then you can't shelve these issues and then say, oh, let's start doing Hindi Chinese bye bye. It will not happen.
Right. Right.
Politically, it's not feasible. If Mr. Modi does that, I can assure you he will be rejected by the in the next election.
Right.
Okay.
There's a
And
big
same thing for Xi Jinping. Same
right.
thing for Xi Jinping. If he gives anything to India, he is also losing power and he's got immense political problems internally. He is
Right.
virtually under siege by a PLA as of today. There's a rift
Right.
between him and the PLA. We're not. I'm glossing over those issues today, but
Right.
China has its immense internal problems. And how does
Right.
he get over deflation? How does he get over the demographic decline, which is irreversible? So there are issues, major issues beyond just this meeting. I think this meeting will serve optics. It'll, give some cushion to both and some amount of talk. But hardcore issues, I think there's a long way to go.
Right, right. Is that also your assessment, Advaita? The fact that it's just going to be about optics. It's a first meeting, but the larger issues are actually going to be there. All the contradictions that General Shankar mentioned, the Pakistan factor, the Brahmaputra Dam, the Dalai Lama's reincarnation, all of those. So where do you exactly see this meeting? I mean, is it a first step? Is it just optics? Is it a big major political gamble both sides are taking? What's your take on this?
I think it's significant, and we've not discussed the role Putin has played. Putin has had a very strong relationship with both India and China. He's also going to be there during this time. So there is certainly an attempt. Remember, we already also have BRICS. So it's not
Yes,
like we only have issues. We also have platforms and things that we have come together on and will
right,
continue to come together on.
right.
Relationships are constantly evolving.
Yeah,
What China recognizes about India and what is close to its temperament is the fact that we are also an ancient civilization. And what
right.
happens with ancient civilizations is that there is a certain pattern of behavior which can repeat itself over time. I think for someone like China, who is feeling kind of cornered, be it with the Taiwan issue or with, people like Australia and those kind of countries around it on one side, is feeling a little cornered, and they understand that India is not one of those countries that invades. We're a big bear. We're peaceful. We're sitting. We're doing our thing till you needle us. If you
Right,
needle us, then you get something like an Operation Sindoor, and we
right.
respond with strength. But we're not walking around the world stage flexing our muscles. We're not doing that. Our prime minister is going out there and he's embracing people. He's being humane. He's being
Mm,
human and having conversations. He's not flexing. He could if he wanted to, but that's not what he's doing. And that's
right.
significant. And for someone like China, I think that makes a difference. Also, if you're already battling the Americans, the last thing you need is an irritated India, and
Right.
I mean, whatever was in the public domain, I have to give it to the Indian government and their foreign policy that they were never overreactive in the last 5 years.
Yes.
Despite the microaggressions from China, they were not overreactive, despite the opposition putting a lot of pressure on them to, respond and trying to show that they had been weakened. I think they played it very strategically and smartly. You didn't
Yes.
even have kind of, negative commentary or sloganeering, as politicians are capable of doing, coming out against China. So I think that has been handled pretty well. I think this sort of skepticism exists. It exists a lot with the public as well. So General has a point. It's not
Mm,
politically expedient to maybe show too much of a bhaichara or things of that nature.
yeah. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. And the Putin factor, as you mentioned, Advaita, is very
Projected
important.
and in terms of
Yeah, I think the internet is a little.
I think we've lost Advaita for a few seconds, but
She'll come back. Yeah.
point that she was making about President Putin being there. And of course, you're going to hear a lot more of this in the next couple of hours when you see Putin, Prime Minister Modi, and President Xi Jingping in the same frame. There's going to be, General Shankar, what was called the Primakov Triangle, if you remember, of the 1990s.
Yeah.
RIC, Russia, India,
Yeah.
China, access.
Primakov, yeah, who was the prime minister of Russia. Yeah.
Yes, briefly, and a very seasoned diplomat, one of the best Soviet diplomats who then later became a key figure in the Russian Federation. But there'll be a lot of talk of that. But I think your points are well made in the fact that this is actually going to be a first step. There are enormous stakes involved for both Prime Minister Modi and, of course, President Xi Jinping, who faces very serious internal disturbances, dissonances. The economy is slowing down, and like you mentioned, the irreversible population decline. But I think we should kind of open the floor to questions if there are any. I think Advaita is going to be
Oh,
back shortly, but we can look
yeah,
at some questions if.
yeah, I'll take a couple of questions. We'll not. Right. Let me just see. There was yeah. This is an interesting question. Maybe you could take it. Is Trump planning to abandon Taiwan and containment of China? Right. With
Good.
this government seeking a stake in falling chip maker Intel, is it meant as a hedge against loss of Taiwan and its
Hmm.
chip making capabilities? Yeah, have a go at it, Sandeep.
Well, this is a big question. No one really knows the answer to this. I mean, is this what is the price of a China US settlement? What they're calling the G2 or the Group of Two, which is that the United States allows for the rise of China, and we both of us can coexist, because it very clearly the US's understanding is that there is no containment of China anymore. That has completely failed, right? China is rising and it is unstoppable now. I think that's what the assessment is. And there's a huge policy making group in the United States also, which believes that, look, you can't contain them anymore. We've tried, we failed. And now let reconcile ourselves to the fact that China is there. It is going to remain there. It will be like what it was during the Cold War with the Soviet Union, and we're going to live in a two-pole world, a dipole. But having said that, I think if Trump stands by and watches Taiwan fall to China, even someone as unpredictable as Trump, that would be disastrous for the U.S. Foreign policy, because then what will immediately happen if Taiwan falls is that Japan and South Korea are going to have to start looking out for themselves. And I possibly foresee, I mean, this is as improbable as it sounds. I would even think they would go nuclear. They would withdraw from the NPT and they would start looking for nuclear weapons to protect themselves, because then it will become a matter of state survival. What's to tell South Korea that North Korea is not going to invade them, or Japan that China would, overwhelm them. So it brings in the entire U.S. security umbrella into question if Taiwan were to, fall. But having said that, I don't think, uh, you know, China would want to invade Taiwan. They're doing a lot of muscle flexing around the Taiwan Straits. In fact, there was a Reuters report yesterday which said they're spending in 2024. China spent $21 billion in all its muscle flexing around Taiwan. That's a lot of money. $21 billion is like one-fourth India's defense budget for this year. That's the kind of money the Chinese are putting in. But I don't think they will actually go in for a physical invasion of Taiwan, because that would mean killing a whole lot of Chinese, right? And especially in Taiwan. The Taiwanese are not going to be, they're not any pushovers, right? And unlike the Russian Federation, which has absorbed a lot of casualties, I don't believe that the present Chinese lot can absorb the kind of casualties that a physical invasion of Taiwan will entail. So I think it's just going to be a lot of posturing and muscle flexing and all that, in the hope that Taiwan kind of comes into the Chinese orbit at some point in the not so distant future. And of course, the whole game, as is being asked over here, is about chips, because that
We'll
AMC
get to the chips a little later. I mean, the
50.
major thing which I think you answered, and I'd just like to add one aspect. There is there's a feeling within these states
Yeah,
where they feel that US might abandon them at their time of
right,
need,
right,
and
right.
Japan exhibits this tendency often, and it's
Yes.
coming through in this India-Japan deal, which is coming through, and we'll talk of it a little later. So I'll take another
Right.
question, which Advaita, have a go at it. India needs to be transactional with US, China, and Russia and maintain a resolute stance and grow. With Ernst and Young report, things looking good for India, bad times for US under DJT. So, your views on this whole story about transactionality and all that?
Ramki, you're right. When you're dealing with a businessman, that's what you do. You transact. And I think India's figured that out. now. And that's the path that we're heading on. I have actually nothing to add to this. I think it's a very a sensible assessment of the present relationship, and this whole dead economy and all of that kind of nonsense. I think, I mean, we believe in reincarnation, so even if we're dead, we'll be back.
Yeah,
So
we'll be back. That's a nice one. Okay, right. Another question. I think this is an important thing. Advaita, have a go at it. US has enormous leverage on India. What if US bans YouTube, all Google products, maps, search, map, all that? And if they take our 700 billion forex reserves like they did with others?
no, they won't do that. Won't happen. It's
Yeah,
highly
yeah.
unlikely,
eh,
and it,
And why?
and that
Why will it not happen?
because it's
Let's
money.
reason it out.
This is a country that's driven on money. That's the
Yeah.
bottom line. I mean, that is the reason why people are elected, why people stay in office, why they continue to dominate the world, is because they have this leverage. At worst, what will happen, even if they do it for maybe 2 3 years, maybe people will be struggle a little, but then they'll develop their own alternatives. Look at what the Russians have done with sanctions. They've developed their own alternatives and they're doing fine. So,
Yeah.
the world will develop alternatives to American tech products if they decided to pull them away. It'll happen. And especially in
Yeah.
a country like India, we're tech forward as well. We have things like UPI payments, digital payments. You go to the US, you still have to pay by cash or credit card. There's no QR code you can scan. And when they come here, they're so shocked that you can do it even on the road with a coconut
Mm.
water seller. So, we will adapt and we will change. We're not a scared country. I think that is very important. If there is some inconvenience in the short term, so be it. But I don't think they're going to do it. They won't do it.
Yeah. You see,
Go
the
ahead.
other thing is, these all these people, YouTube, Google, Microsoft, all they have global capability centers in India. Their
Yeah.
R&D is being done here, so they can't pull out, right? Just to add to that, how will India cope if EU too puts sanctions on India to pressure India to stop buying oils from Russia? EU foreign minister has alluded to this sanction against China and India is being planned. Yeah, Sandeep.
Well, how will India cope if the US put sanctions? EU also put sanctions on India. Well, I think we'll find a way around it because like Advaita said, Jamshankar, the fact is that the Indian economy is extremely resilient, and what we've seen from the past is that all the shocks that we've received have actually worked to our advantage. There's a line in Hindi which says "Apada mein afsar," which means that opportunity in an emergency. And we've seen that in 1991, that big shock that we received when we didn't, with the balance of payment crisis of May 1991, where we had to sell our gold, literally, $240 billion worth of gold, 240 million rather, was sent out by the Reserve Bank, with a buyback option, of course. But the fact is that that is the moment that we triggered off our economic liberalization. So who knows, if the EU also puts sanctions on India, it could actually open up other avenues, that India would start moving away from oil dependence, for instance, and go to nuclear energy. I was with Bharat Karnad yesterday. I had a long chat with him. And he was, in fact, welcoming sanctions. He said that I hope every country in the world imposes sanctions on us, because then we will wake up and then start doing things by ourselves and, not be
Yeah,
dependent on this country or that country.
great. I'll take this as a last question.
Yes.
Abhijit raised, General Franca, what are the chances that US will take military action against India? US has now Pak in its pocket, as is Bangladesh. US has attacked Iraq, Libya, now Venezuela. What are India's options? Abhijit, first and foremost, war with big nations like India, that too nuclear nations, space capable nations, has to have a political objective. What is the political objective of attacking India? With Bangladesh, it is very clear to overturn the Hasina government so that they can get an inroad into Myanmar and then get an inroad in against China and get hold of the rare earths in Myanmar. The thing is not Bangladesh. The political objective there is getting hold of the rare earths which are there in Myanmar, which have given China the edge. And I'll talk of this in depth, in detail one of these days. The rare earth game which is going on in Myanmar, which is very serious. It's next to us. Similarly, Pak. They have not attacked Pak. They've enticed Pak into its fold after Pak got defeated at its weakest point. Iran, or Libya or Iraq, all these countries and Venezuela don't have the capability which India has. And there is a political objective against Libya or Iraq and all oil, energy, radicalism. All these things are there. What do they have against India? You attack India, you lose Microsoft, Google, YouTube, everything. All their icons. Remember, US thrives today on these icons of the big tech companies. It doesn't have manufacturing. If you destroy them by attacking India, you destroyed USA. Okay, that's the thing. So there's no question of attacking India. And last but not the least, India is not a small country to be attacked and got away easily. America will have to pay a huge price. And America in its military history, look at Vietnam and Afghanistan. They're abject failures. Even Iraq is a failure. Political outcomes from Iraq are absolutely, useless. So I don't think this is all. That's why I said in the beginning, under all conditions, when we deal with USA, we should remember USA is not our enemy. Just because we have problems with them, it doesn't mean it's our enemy. Right? I think we've had a great discussion, and we've taken a few questions. And I must tell everyone that look, we unfortunately the questions are so many that we can't take all. How many more we would love to take? And we've got some great thing going for the first time. It's been a great, you know, opener with Sandeep and Advaita. Sandeep, before Sandeep concludes the show, I'd like Advaita to speak a bit, and then Sandeep, you can conclude.
Just I wanted to raise a point on that attacking India. Trump, despite everything, has not attacked Russia as yet. So, despite Ukraine, despite the big talk, despite the aggression, despite all of that, he's not done it. He's still meeting him in Alaska. And they say that Putin sent a body double. I'm just saying. It could have been him. But so let's not worry about that factor. But it's been wonderful to be part of this conversation, even at 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning. It's been great. And I really look forward to more conversations like this. The viewer response has been terrific because I have been tweeting some of our comments when I can live. And it's really nice to see the people looking for quality discussions of this nature. So thank you for including me in this, Sandeep. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It was your idea, Advaita, and one of your viewers had commented, and that's how we kind of got talking about this. So I am, compliments to your viewers, and I hope all of you, benefited enormously from this great discussion that we've had. General Shankar, of course, the master of not just military tactics but geopolitics as well, and of course, Advaita, her knowledge of politics, global politics, is far more than just cinema and entertainment. But thank you very much.
We need to have you talking more also, Sandeep, not just asking the questions, because we're missing out some very interesting.
Probably we will do that another time. But I want to thank you all for your time, for being here, General Shankar, Advaita, and hope to do more of this in the future. It is enormously beneficial listening to you, your thoughts. On this very, very turbulent times that we are living in, and 2025 is one of the most interesting years geopolitically that I can think of in the last 25 years. I mean, who would have thought all that we've seen, in the last 8 months? I don't believe there's been another year like this, and in fact, every year since 2020 has been the same. So we have to ask ourselves, what did we do? What did we drink over the last 5 months, or what did we inject ourselves with that has converted our lives into, literally T20 kind of, games, and the enormous rate of change and the pace of everything, especially geopolitics, which normally takes time to play out, and all that. Here it's playing out with T20 like intensity, but that's something that we'll keep coming back to in discussions over the next couple of weeks. So thank you very much, General Shankar and Advaita. And I hope you all, benefited from this conversation. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'd like to thank VC who's become a member. I think it must be with Advaita's channel, right?
No, maybe
And
yours. We don't
no,
know.
it's not
We
mine
see
because
whoever you
no,
join.
it's not mine.
Oh,
That's okay. It doesn't matter. Whoever it is, thanks a lot, VC, for joining in as a member. And with
thank
this,
you.
we'll sign off and have a great Sunday or Saturday and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye bye.